agreement was that you're going to move from here to the Independence Square. That was
they went agreement with who agreed?
With the
that was their instruction. There was never our agreement.
Police accused the group of attacking them without provocation, as at least 12 of their men have sustained injuries. We'll hear from them and take you live to the Kwame Nkrumah interchange, where the protest is still underway. And Top Story is brought to you by Vodafone. My name is Ernest, Manu.
Arise! Arise!
And so these are the sentiments really.
And those are sounds of a charged crowd ready to march to the Obrasport, from the Obrasport to the Independence Square to protest against the high cost of living and what they say is bad governance, corruption, insecurity, among several concerns. The police deployed about 500 men to police this particular demonstration and to ensure a smooth exercise of the rights of the people. In fact, for the very first time in the history of demonstrations in this country, a mobile clinic was made available to the protesters by the police. Listen to the IGP, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, charging his men to treat the people with dignity.
Through the end so beautifully. Next point is that we should continue to remember that those demonstrators are human beings like us. Those demonstrators are Ghanaians like us. They are brothers and sisters. And therefore, we should treat them with all the respect, the civility, and the dignity that each and every human being deserves. In effect, we should treat them the way we would have loved to be treated if we were on the other side. And from that, it means, as you go out there, if anybody needs help, help the person. If it is you, that is your effort that is going to take for somebody to continue to live in order to accomplish his God-given destiny, please do that, and do that joyously. Do that with love. Do that with a sense of humility. Do that with a sense of humility and humanity. At the end of the day, we win the hearts and minds of these demonstrators. And as a way of contributing towards that, we are deploying 2 mobile police hospitals for the purpose of this demonstration, both for yourself and also for any demonstrator who may need our assistance in this regard. We want to show the world that as a country, our democracy is growing from strength to strength. And this is a finest opportunity to demonstrate that. And we cannot, and I repeat, we cannot miss this opportunity.
So that's the IGP, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare. But after several hours, the crowd had not moved. It was unclear what had stalled the march to the Independence Square. But this happened. Firing of tear gas, sounds of gunshots and vandalism of police vehicle. My colleague Manu was there for us. All of this uncovered right before him. He joins me in the studio to bring me some details. Manu, at what point did the chaos really start?
Well, this was just a few minutes after 1 p.m. The demonstrators were attempting to use the route from the of course Kwame Nkrumah interchange all the way through the Ring Road through to the Akweje interchange and then head left to the Jubilee House. This was a decision that the police indeed was vehemently against. At this point, the police formed a human wall, essentially to prevent the protesters from carrying through with their decision to use the Ring Road Central Road through to the Jubilee House. And this was the point where the chaos actually erupted.
And you saw the pelting of the police, the vandalism of their vehicle. In fact, when the tear gas was fired, you and the camera technician, you were affected. Tell us about all of that and how the police reacted to the crowd.
So in just a few minutes after the protesters attempted to push their way through the ring road, we just saw something in a semblance of a scatter. So a lot of people began dispersing from that central point where this entire altercation was actually occurring. The next thing we saw, and this is what I saw, a number of stones flown from the side of the protesters towards the side of the the police officers. At the third stone that I saw being flown to the police officers, a response came, and it came in a form of a canister of tear gas. Subsequently, a couple of other canisters were also fired into the protesters, essentially dispersing them. There was stampede. I saw people, run into other people. Some of them fell on the floor, and it was generally a really chaotic scene. And the aftermath of that situation was an attack and essentially a counter attack from either side of the situation, from the police and then from the protesters.
And in fact, you even saw that they had put ties beneath the Kwame Nkrumah interchange, and some things that look like combustibles on the part of the protesters as part of their protest against the police action. Tell us more about that.
Indeed, at a point where they were prevented from accessing the ring road and also pushed back by the police riot control officers, they piled up a heap of car tires. At the first instance, I counted 5 car tires, which a gentleman approached the car tires and poured something, just as you said, something a semblance of a combustible agent, and then lit a match and then threw it in there. The entire heap of tires went up in flames. It took the police riot control officers to actually douse the flames. I can confirm to you that there were 2 subsequent times when other heaps of car tires were set ablaze right on that particular stretch. And in just as a first instance, it took the police officers to douse those flames and again push back the protesters, who at this time were just gaining in on the territory where the police officers had created their
But the
barrier.
police tells us that they had 500 men to police this particular demonstration, and indeed they were there in full force with equipment, water cannons and what have you, in order to forestall any misbehavior, for want of a better expression, or people who want to infiltrate the crowd to misbehave. Tell us about the strategy adopted by the police at this point when it turned very chaotic. We know what the Kwame Nkrumah interchange looks like. How did they manage to keep all these sections of the protesters who were outraged under control?
So at the point that the chaos had erupted, the entire stretch, whether you were heading towards Kanishi on the ring road or you were heading towards Kanda on that stretch, was blocked. And so there are 2 lanes on each side. There's a speed lane which has 3 lanes, and then the outer lane which has 2 lanes. So all the 5 lanes on each of the sides of the road were blocked. Oncoming vehicles were prevented from moving, and we saw the police officers actually siege the entire road. So there were no people moving or coming. They were only gaining in on the territory which was hitherto occupied by the protesters. So from just under the overhead bridge that connects Kukumlimli to Adabraka, the police officers gained in on the protesters, pushed them all the way back to the back of the fire service units under the interchange. And so that was the strategy that the police used. I know that Christian Teteonu actually led the police hierarchy to hold a crunch meeting with the leadership of Arise Ghana. Essentially, we're told that the key issue that was discussed was the matter of the route. We're told that the police administration insisted that the protesters use the stretch from the Kwame Nkrumah Avenue through Farisco traffic light to the TUC and then onto the Independence Square.
But it appears that was not successful, because when Maxwell Adbaba took over from you, Manuel, he spoke to the Deputy National Youth Organizer of the NDC, Adam Adbana, who said, in fact, he insisted that there was no agreement between the police and the group. And you remember this issue went to court. Now, he had hinted that lawyers had appealed the decision of the court, and for that matter, there was nothing binding on them. Listen to this interview he granted Maxwell a while ago.
We are here for a very peaceful demonstration. We had an agreement with the police. All of a sudden, the police tell us order from above. And so they are trying to go against the agreement we've always had with them. And so it led to some confrontation. They were firing tear gas at the unarmed supporters. So self-defense, some of them decided to rely on stones and others. But you see, those who we must hold responsible for this are the people at the Flagstaff House. If you have an independent police service, if Dampari had not allowed himself to be used as a poster boy of violence for Akufo-Addo, we will not be where we are today. Because we've had an agreement with the police.
Yeah, but I thought
entire leadership of the police.
But I thought that agreement. I thought that agreement was that you were not going to go use the ring road and go towards the Flagstaff House. I thought agreement was that you're going to move from here to the Independence Square. That was
they went agreement with who? Who agreed?
With the
that was their instruction. It was never our agreement. Our agreements that we have documented with them.
And
use the ring road.
But per the court's ruling, you're supposed to go towards the Independence Square.
We successfully filed a stay of execution. And so the court procedure doesn't even come in here. The only thing we are saying is that the police service have allowed themselves to be used by Akufo-Addo and his cronies to execute this agenda, but we are not intimidated at all.
I'm sure you saw that video of the Inspector General of Police, even before they moved for the protest, urging his men to try and be civil, with the people.
Civil.
For the first time,
there was an instance where even a police officer told me that he will shoot at the crowd, and I gave myself to him that shoot me because I'm their leader. Right there in front of the police service, asked them. The rest of the men had to separate us because I told him he was holding his gun and said he will shoot at the crowd. I said, shoot me first because I am leading them. So his men are not being civil. All that Dampari said, and we have no Dampari. He's a celebrity IGP. He likes to speak nice things to the camera, but he acts otherwise. He goes around frying kelewele and buffalo and all of that. That is not his work. He should come and see the unprofessionalism that has been exhibited here by his men. Some of his men are extremely unprofessional. He must be held responsible.
Would you say also that the protesters pushed the police to the edge, pushed them down the cliff? Because we've seen videos of their cars vandalized, police vehicles.
There was an action, and these unarmed people decided to react. Like I said, they are unarmed. They didn't come here for war. They did not come here to have battle with the police. But because the police started it, we are dealing with human beings. Some decided for self-defense to also fight back. And that is why we are where we are today. But as leaders, we have tried to keep the situation under control.
So what's likely to happen now? What's going to happen now? Because it's getting close. Is it 4 p.m. yet? 3:54. What is
4 p.m.? Why 4 p.m.?
Because the demonstration, the protest was supposed to be 8 to 4 p.m.
Whose agreement?
By the court ruling.
Which court? Which court? We are going to march. We are here. We are going to protest. Okay? Whatever, like I said, we filed a stay of execution. And so the court procedure doesn't even come in here. We are protesting and we are still marching.
So that's Adam Adbana, who is the Deputy National Youth Organizer of the NDC, speaking to my colleague Maxwell Adbana. Then we'll be heading shortly to the Kwame Nkrumah interchange and speak to Maxwell. He's still on the ground. But this issue was really in court, and the court essentially dictated what should happen today by way of the route and also the time for the protest. The police had head to court, in fact, to argue that as far as the timing was concerned, the threat of terrorism within the sub-region and the country would make this dangerous if the court allowed the demonstration, the group to go ahead with their demonstration. Court correspondent Joseph Akable is with me in the studio. Joseph, what did the court say? Let's know what
fact, they had wanted initially to do 48 hours continuous. Later on, they amended to 10 p.m. and later on it came to 8 p.m. And so they say that this was what they had agreed with the police before the police decided that they were going to take the matter up to court.
But the court also decided on the timing for this protest.
8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I can tell you that this actually went beyond 4 p.m. Because as at 4 p.m. we're live on TV. Maxwell was still reporting. We had some of the people on the ground. But let's go to Maxwell live right now, who is at the Kwame Nkrumah interchange. Maxwell, we are learning that in the last few minutes, many of them have left the Kwame Nkrumah interchange. But we're also learning that some persons have been picked up. Bring us up to speed.
Yes, Ernest. So in the last 45 minutes to 1 hour, we had thousands of protesters gathered in the middle of the road directly under the Circle interchange. Now, they were being addressed by some executive members of the National Democratic Congress and organizers of the Arise Ghana Demo. Now, key among the people I saw was the national chairman of the NDC, Samuel Okutuampoku, who commended the protesters for protesting against what he described as general economic hardship and mismanagement of the country. Now, about 15 minutes after he spoke, and at exactly 4:30 p.m., police started firing tear gas to disperse the crowd of people clad in red shirts who were protesting directly under the Circle interchange. Now, it was in the middle of my live report, and together with the crew, we had to run and duck for cover because as police fired the tear gas, some of the protesters pelted them with stones. Now, some passers-by and persons who were doing business on the shoulders of the road were affected. In fact, two persons collapsed right in front of me, and personally, I had to buy some water, pour it on my head, on my face, and my nose, just to be able to withstand it. And together with scores of people, we ran to a house which was some distance away from the Circle interchange. Now, now the unofficial explanation from some of my police sources on the ground is that the rush hour was setting in, and if the crowd was not dispersed, it could turn chaotic, especially for people who are close from work and are heading home. The police has managed to disperse the crowd, but I've seen some of the protesters lurking around. They are relentless and they are vowed not to leave. But as it stands right now, I can still see police crowd control vehicles, more than 100 police officers who are still on the ground, many of them in crowd control gear, all of them stationed at a point leading towards the ring road and the other side, of town. Some of them were at the top of the interchange itself, trying to disperse some of the protesters who are gathered there, hoping that police will leave the ground soon so they could, gather and continue with the protest.
And Maxwell, at some point, we saw a bit of a standoff or confrontation, I should say, between some of the NDC leaders who had been there to support this demonstration. Joshua Kamba, the national organizer, confronted the police, and we saw that at that point, some persons were picked up. Is it clear to you what was happening at that moment, and how many people were arrested by the police?
Well, the explanation that we got from the NDC executive member, Joshua Kamba, was that one of the protesters was arrested and kept in a room owned by the National Ambulance Service. So we had quite a number of police officers standing in front of the room and manning the gate. But some of the protesters said that the man who was being kept in there did no wrong. So they were taking the law into their own hands to try and free the gentleman who had been arrested and was being kept, in the room by the police. Joshua Kamba's argument was that he's alleging that he saw someone fire the tear gas first, and he said the tear gas that was fired first did not come from a police officer, and that it came from someone who was not in police uniform. And he thinks that there are some saboteurs among the police who are trying, to hurt some of the protesters. So that angered, the protesters who were here, who were trying to force their way in there to free the man who was arrested by the police. And the allegation was that he was pelting the police with stones.
And the police has been responding to some of these things, Maxwell, that you're reporting. They have actually issued a statement, and we also are learning that there will be a press conference this evening in a few minutes. Actually, Maxwell will be there to cover that for us live from the Arise Ghana group. They are having a press conference to respond to some of the issues that's transpired today at the demonstration. But the police statement clarifies also from their part what has been happening today. They accuse the group of provoking them and also that 12 of their men have been hospitalized as a result of the attack by the protesters. Kweku Asante is with me in the studio. Kweku, what are the details?
So, Ernest, the police starts by saying that contrary to court orders, the organizers insisted on using routes leading to the Jubilee House. All attempts to persuade them to comply with the court-approved routes did not yield the expected results. Unfortunately, and without any provocation, the demonstrators began pelting the police with stones. So far, 12 police officers who sustained various degrees of injuries and were treated in the police mobile hospitals have been transferred to the police hospital for further treatment. Some police vehicles have also been damaged. The demonstration further regrouped and burned ties on the road around Circle. The fire from the burning ties has since been put out by the police. The police therefore had no option but to use tear gas and water cannons to subdue the rioting and restore order. The process is still ongoing. The road has partially been cleared, and we urge all road users to continue to bear with us and use alternative routes. We wish to assure the public that those involved in these violent demonstrations will be brought to face justice.
Kweku, thank you very much for bringing us those details from the police. They are promising to bring to justice persons who have been, who have attacked the police today at that demonstration. But the other issue that the demonstrators raised today is that they have a notice of appeal of that decision by the court. Let's go on to the phone lines now and speak to private legal practitioner Martin Pebu. He joins us on the line. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Top Story. So the protesters say they have appealed this decision, and for that reason, that appeal should work as a stay of execution. I want you to listen briefly to George Lowe, who is a former MP and a private legal practitioner. He spoke to my colleague Maxwell Abeba on this move, and then I'll take your response.
We're told that
We have stayed the ruling. Listen, we have stayed the ruling. The stay of execution means whatever ruling the judge has been put on hold. So far as we are concerned, we are operating on the original agreement we had with the police. Because one time they went to court to get the ruling that the court gave is in abeyance. So please let's understand this simple thing and stop all this misinterpretation that they can.
Assuming without admitting that that stay of execution is applicable or is in effect now, you had meetings with the police and they told you that the demonstration cannot go beyond 4 p.m.
By law, we are supposed to notify the police and agree with them on a route. They cannot so moto decide that we should take a particular route or go in a particular manner. We are the citizens of this country and power resides in our hands. The police, by law, are mandated to do what? To guide us and protect us. You see, the police is not supposed to direct us as to how to express our feelings.
But you cannot go towards the ring road.
I am saying that I don't want to overplay this thing. I'm saying that there is a stay of execution.
We only know that you've applied.
Please, please. If you see, don't let's enter into legal arguments. You will not understand me. I am saying that per the rules, when you file for a stay, in other fact, after every.
Mr. Pebu, do you agree with this argument?
Oh yes, that's the law. If a person files a stay of execution, then no matter how weak you even think the application is, and sometimes we all know, if you ask for it, you know which one will succeed generally, because of experience, and the ones that will not succeed. You cannot say because you think it won't succeed, you will not afford them the chance to exercise their rights. No. In other words, because the court said they should do 8 to 4, and they say they are unhappy, and so they filed a notice of appeal to go to court of appeal, and on the back of that notice of appeal, if now filed stay of execution, the effect of the stay of execution is that what the judge ordered will not take effect until that application for stay has been heard. You see, so from it means stay of execution. Once you're able to file it and you serve the other party, you are free in the interim for the 1 week, 2 weeks. So from yesterday night, I granted interview to other media where we said if really there are terrorist concerns and the rest as the police would make us believe, then they were supposed to file for abridgment of time. So yesterday night, they were not supposed to go to sleep, and lawyers don't go to sleep when the occasion requires it. So they're supposed to stay up, file the necessary processes, and then first thing in the morning, go see the Chief Justice. Then they would have fixed the case for this morning. So in actual fact, the fact that the police didn't take those steps, I know the police have lawyers, content lawyers, it makes me think that maybe they really didn't mean it. Because if they really did, any serious lawyer knows that no, I don't have to go to bed. I have to stay up and file all the necessary processes. So even yesterday, before Chief Justice would go to bed, they would have gone to him with their applications and all that, and all these things would have been fixed. I've forgotten one of the decisions the Supreme Court gave, that bail should be held on Saturdays, Sundays, public holidays. Yes. So when the agency requires it, you have to send a letter to the Chief Justice. And there's a way to handle it. So let's just pray that nothing happens. But as for legally, I don't think you can fault the demonstrators. The police had all the opportunities in the world to run back to the court this morning, but they didn't do it.
And so you're saying that even regardless the fact that this is a security issue we're talking about, the police did not have the right to halt or direct the demonstrators in the direction of the court the day before, which was just yesterday.
Yes, because the demonstrators arrived Ghana have filed a stay of execution. Yeah, so Mr. Manu, what I'm saying is that if you really have serious grounds to say that there is a huge security risk, the police know what to do. And Mr. Manu, let's be careful. Experience from other parts of the world. Not just at the mention of security, then we keep quiet. No, you have to demonstrate that to the court. The ultimate security decider is the court.
But is there no responsibility on the part of those applying for the stay to also reconsider the decision of going ahead with their protest until the court decides on the matter?
No, but what they have filed means that they are free to go and do it today the way they want. So if the police really had strong security issues, intelligence and the rest, then they would have gone to court this morning. That's what the law is. So, Mr. Manu, please. You see America, 9/11, Guantanamo Bay, Abu Ghraib prisons and the rest. Please, let me tell you, from experience from other parts of the world, police and intelligence and security forces want to exaggerate security matters. I beg you, let's take it one day at a time. Have you heard Abu Ghraib? You see all the things that the CIA was doing and all that. It showed they were just saying, oh, security. And see, they did so many human rights abuses. Look, UK, there was a minister of the Home Secretary, one of them. He went to Parliament and sought to hide some documents and all that. It turned out the Americans didn't regard it as a security document. The Americans gave those documents out freely, and so on and so forth. So the watchword is that don't just run away at the mention of security.
Very well.
If you have security concerns, you take it to the judge. Judges are trained in their own way to weigh and then make decisions.
Let's see how this pans out. Mr. Apawu, I'm grateful for your time here on Top Story, but we have one of the leaders of Arise Ghana with us in the studio, Mensa Thompson, who is also the leader for ASEPA. He joins us in the studio. So you decided on the routes that you are chosen initially, despite the court, intervention, because you say that you have filed a stay of execution. The protest was supposed to have been held for 2 days. Today has come to an end, even though you did not move to the Independence Square, which was the original destination. What happens from here?
Yes, first of all, I think let me say on record that we have experienced one of the most distasteful exhibition of bad faith by the Ghana Police Service, and I want to state on record that the altercation, the violence, and all the mishaps that we've witnessed today were all orchestrated by the Ghana Police Service.
Well, the police says you attacked them without provocation.
Yes, and I'll come to the police statement, and you see, the moment the Ghana Police Service allow themselves to become a propaganda group or a propaganda tool,
that's not a fair comment to make.
That's a very fair comment. You see, it's a very fair comment because, and I'll refer you to the statement of the Ghana Police Service. You see, look at the heading of the Ghana Police Service. You see, you are a Ghana Police Service. You have a responsibility to you went there with a responsibility to protect we the citizens. You went there assuming even violent erupt. You quickly come out, issue a statement to say, Arise Ghana demonstrators attack police, 12 officers injured. And you see, what is even intriguing is that when you go to the Facebook page of the Ghana Police Service where they posted their statement, they can only post a picture of only one police officer who had an abrasion on his ears. I'm daring the Ghana Police Service to release all the images of the 12 police officers they say were injured by the Rise Ghana demonstrators. I'm daring them to release all the 12 images. You see, we cannot accept this level of unprofessionalism.
Mr. Thompson, we saw the videos. We saw the videos of Pelton. We saw how the police vehicles were vandalized. We saw all of that.
But you saw the tear gas. You saw the rubber bullet. You saw the live bullet that was...
But that was in response to the attack.
That was not in response. So I'll tell you what happened. I was there. This morning, when we arrived at the grounds, the leadership of the Ghana Police Service, led by COP Teteyonu, requested to meet with we the leaders of the demonstration. When we met, they brought the court judgment to us that this is what the court is saying. Then we told them that we have also filed a stay of execution. So now they know that as for the court judgment, it can never be operationalized. So now we are willing to reach a compromise with them. Now everything is up to our discretion as demonstrators and as the police in order to protect the demonstrators and also to ensure public safety. Let us reach a compromise. So we made an appeal that, look, they should forget about Jubilee House. We don't want to go to Jubilee House again. After all, the person who wanted to go and petition has run away from the country. So we are not interested in going to Jubilee House again. They should allow us to go through the Akwaje interchange straight to the Ministry of Finance, a route which they have agreed that we will use tomorrow. So we said that since you have agreed that we will use this route tomorrow already, and you have absolutely no problem with this route, let us use that route today. Let's go through that route and end at the ministries. We'll address our crowd at the ministries and we'll disperse. So by 6 p.m. we would have dispersed.
Why the change of plans from the Independence Square to the ministries?
No, the Independence Square was never our plan. It was the court who recommended that we should go there, and we had filed a stay of execution on that court judgment. So that was not our interest. In our arrangement with the police, we have reached 3 clear weeks ago, was to camp in front of the Jubilee House. But we said, look, we are no longer interested in the Jubilee House. We'll go through the ministry's route and then address our people there and disperse at 6 p.m. Then by tomorrow by 11 a.m. we can converge again. The police said they have to make phone calls. In front of us, the police make calls to whoever we don't know, and the police says, order from above says they cannot accept our route. So we also said, okay, if you cannot reach a compromise with us, we are also not going to take your route. As for Independence Square, we won't go today or tomorrow. Then we are going to stay at Circle from that time till tomorrow morning. That was what we told the police.
So what happens? This evening you're addressing a news conference. What happens?
So we told our people to just move on the street and stay there. Once our people were moving from the Kwame Nkrumah enclave, where the statue is, to the street of Circle, the police started firing tear gas and rubber bullets. So all those pelting of stones you saw our people do was in response of the tear gas. How can unarmed civilians, in fact we have met the police, we've engaged them, how can we start throwing stones at police without any provocation? Are we mad? Are we crazy? So If you Ghana Police Service, you come and release this ridiculous statement, non-factual statement, in an attempt to create the impression that we are the aggressors, when at every point in time during this demonstration, you, the police service, were the aggressors. You were the people who are taking entrenched position. You were the people who were not willing to compromise. Then it becomes problematic. Then it is very unprofessional. Then we go to the point where now we have said that, look, we are going to control our crowd. We call our people to order. Then the police start arresting people and shooting people and pelting stones. I brought to your studios rubber bullets. This is rubber bullets that now they've injured one person's eye, and number of people are injured. The police then come to issue a statement claiming that 12 of their men were injured. When you ask them for photograph, they only release one person whose ears has an altercation. So we are daring them. They should release all the images, 12 of the 12 police officers who were injured, to the media.
Mr. Thompson, thank you very much for your time here on Top Story. That's where we'll end it. But we have a security analyst, Adam Bolan, also on the line with us. Dr. Adam Bolan, thank you very much for joining us. The IGP was determined that this was going to be a fine opportunity to demonstrate world-class policing and ultimately a feather in our cap as far as our democracy is concerned. Unfortunately, this has turned very chaotic and the headlines not good for all of us. You've been monitoring this. What is your reading of what has happened, the policing, and of course the reaction of the protesters?
Well, good evening to your listeners. It's quite unfortunate. Some of us, in fact, since the news broke about the, what do you call it, the standoff between the police, the protesters, the leaders, and probably the issue ending up in court. Some of us took it upon ourselves to engage the leadership. I mean, I spoke to some of their leaders with regards to what was going to happen and hoping that this demonstration will pass as one of the best, looking at the economic conditions of all of us. What they are doing probably will get the leadership to listen. But unfortunately, what happened today, some of us felt was below expectation. And so what I can say is that there has to be more dialogue. If there is going to be any further demonstration, there has to be more dialogue so that some of these things that happened today, fortunately, we didn't have any, injuries that might be permanent to some of the protesters and maybe the police. But moving on, Ernest, I think that, whatever we do, the police would always would have to protect us. And so we need to work with the police while the police work with us, if you ask me, Ernest.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bonar, for your comments here on Top Story. That's it for Top Story, brought to you by Vodafone. Together we will be taking you live to that news conference at the Press Center, going to be organized by Arise Ghana to respond to the police statement and all that has happened today. But we have more on that for you on Newsnight. Emefa, what's ahead?